Hey everyone, this is Joe from Toledo, Ohio. Live in Northwest Ohio, and I just wanted to take about 15 or 20 minutes and maybe help give people a little bit of a sense of purpose of what they can be doing right now. Probably the biggest problem we have right now, and I'm talking politically. I'm talking to Trump supporters. From the biggest problem we have right now is people having no sense of what they can do. And this is a really vulnerable time because this is when people who have off the wall crazy ideas can really take advantage of people because people are looking for whatever they can find. So I'm going to try and be as brief as I can, but I really wish you would think hard about what I'm going to say. Put your pride aside because we know that pride can be a destroying factor in decision making. It'll often lead us to make decisions that are bad. We need to be of the mindset right now of wanting to accomplish what we need to accomplish, even if it means doing it in a way that doesn't glorify ourselves or the way we want to get things done. Okay. I would just equate it really quickly to, like, for example, when I watch a football game, I want my team to win, and I like to see them win in convincing fashion. Okay. Sometimes you can get too caught up in the drama and the glory of it, and you stumble and you accidentally lose because you were too um, obsessed with looking good while you won. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's going to be an important factor when I get to one of my points. But there's two things that I really want to get at. The first is that, and please don't stop watching this video after I say this. Please hear me out, listen to my arguments, and then if you feel that I'm wrong, then obviously disavow what I'm saying. But the first is that third parties just really are not effective. They never have been. Um, the way our system is set up, the two major political parties control all of the state legislatures, they control all of the branches of government, and it's the states that write the election laws. It's the states that determine how elections are run. All of those laws have been written by Democrats and Republicans, and they contain aspects that are just complete roadblocks to being able to create an effective third party. Okay. I want you to understand that it doesn't necessarily, it means something that people are very driven right now and they're motivated, but you still have to operate within the law and you still have to operate within election proceedings. Okay. So it doesn't, I mean, we saw it with this last election. It doesn't seem, even though we were motivated, we went out and we lost the election because another side cheated. Okay. So we've got to have more than just momentum on our side. We've got to have the ability to operate and control the legal aspects of elections and how political parties operate. Political parties don't mean anything, they are just a shell. They are, and they represent what their members make them. Okay? Look at the Republican Party. Uh, over the last 40 years, the Republican Party has gone through some changes. The Democrat Party, even more so, and the Democrat Party in a very short period of time. Back in 2000, the Democrat Party ran a milquetoast candidate named Al Gore, who was not an extremist. I mean, he is as far as environment is concerned, but for the most part, he was considered a moderate, non-extremist, just milquetoast, robotic candidate. And then in 2004, you had John Kerry run, who also was just kind of like the establishment, milquetoast, non-extremist candidate, at least from the aspect of Democrats. But then in 2004, after Kerry lost, the progressives started to move under Howard Dean. Howard Dean had run for the presidency under the Democrats to get the nomination in 2003 and 2004, and he lost. But he initiated and inserted progressivism into the Democrat Party. Now, at that time, the Clintons were the powerhouse of the Democrat Party. And yet, the progressives managed to infiltrate the Democrat Party in 2004, and within 4 years, they got the widely accepted extremist Barack Obama into the White House. And not just that they got him in the White House, but they overthrew Hillary Clinton in the process. So they managed, what they did was they took an existing organization called the Democratic Party that has all of the laws on its side, all of the funding on its side, all of the power, all of the positions throughout states and the bureaucracy, blah, blah, blah. They infiltrated that system and took it over for themselves. And that's what I'm saying we need to do as conservatives and supporters of our president, President Trump. We have to infiltrate the GOP and get rid of the rhinos. And then we can make the GOP whatever we want it to be. We need to reclaim it. I served a year back in the early 2000s. I was in the Libertarian Party of Ohio. Okay, the Libertarian Party in Ohio is, I think, in the top 5 in the country for most libertarians, the biggest state parties. And I was elected as the Northwest Ohio director, and I oversaw 28 states, and I served for about a year. And all they did was bicker about the nitpick things, like, oh, we need to do this, and it was all just about like who was the purist and arguments about what the strategy should be. They've succumbed to so many things that other third parties do, because and they've been around for 50 years, they've never won anything. The Republican Party literally has elected more libertarians to Congress than the Libertarian Party has. Just think Ron Paul and Rand Paul, okay? They are both libertarians, but they used the apparatus of the Republican Party to get elected. So now there actually are libertarians in Congress because they used the existing system to get there. And that's what I'm saying we need to do. So the first thing that we should focus on is the county level Republican Party organizations. They're the kingmakers. Every single county in the country has a Republican Party. They decide who to support to run for all the state offices and for all the federal offices. So let's say you're in a county that has 200 members in the Republican Party. There's out of those 200, there's probably at least 100 that support President Trump, okay, and are of the same mindset. It's probably maybe even more. But then if you get involved and you bring your MAGA people with you, there's literally nothing they can do to stop you from voting and taking over the county party organization. And then all of a sudden, you are the one in charge of spending the funds that come down from the RNC. You are the ones who are in charge of deciding what candidate is going to receive the full support and funding from the Republican Party in your area. So basically, that's kind of what we saw happen with the Tea Party about 10 years ago. The Tea Party, I don't know if they officially created a third party or not, but what they did was they worked within the existing system of the Republican Party and they got their candidates elected, like Ted Cruz, who's still there. The downfall of the and then this is kind of segue into the second part of what we need to do. The downfall of the Tea Party is that it started getting branded as a bunch of wackos because that was around the time when you had a lot of people questioning Barack Obama's birth certificate. So that was easy fodder for the Democrats and the media to dismiss the Tea Party and say, yeah, that's those crazies, those crazy birthers, okay? That's fine if you doubted Obama's birth certificate. But this is the second aspect of what we need to do. We've got to control messaging because this really is also about a game of propaganda and messaging. The majority, well, I'd say maybe let's say maybe like I'd say 50 to 60% of the people in this country that vote or could vote are generally apathetic toward politics. They don't watch it and follow it like we do. So they're going to be very susceptible to believing what they hear. Okay? Let me just prove this by saying look at all of the evidence that came out about Hunter Biden. There was a live press conference with Tony Bobulinski where he explicitly stated that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were involved in taking payments from foreign countries and leveraging the office of the vice presidency. Okay? He handed over 3 cell phones that contained private messages and emails, pretty much implicating the Biden family as being corrupt. Where is that now? Well, it's nowhere because I think at the time, most of the major networks never even covered that press conference. So they're able to control the narrative. You see, politics is not about fact, it's about perception. And the Democrats have the tool of the media and they have the desire to lie, which that's the one thing we can't really compete with. We're Christians and a lot of conservatives. We don't play those dirty games. So it puts us at a disadvantage. But what I'm trying to tell you is it's a propaganda battle. Trump could have pulled out this election because we all know that there is evidence of fraud. Okay? Why didn't he pull out the election? Because he did not have the propaganda machine to get the word out to enough average Americans to cause people to call their congressman and to force the system to investigate this evidence and to find proof. Every step along the way, the Democrats had judges and they had bureaucrats who could become roadblocks, and it gave fodder to the media to say things like, well, another one of Trump's election challenges failed. That was just propaganda. We know that if this evidence had ever had an opportunity to hit a court, because it did in Pennsylvania, there was a Pennsylvania federal judge that literally stated in one of the cases that she felt the case would win on its merits. And the case was about, I think, the 3 or 4 political candidates that sued the state of Pennsylvania for violating the Equal Clause Act. The judge ruled that she believed the case would win on its merits, but that and I can't remember why she it got appealed and it went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court never heard the case on its merits. The Supreme Court dismissed it based on what's called latches, which is just a legal term used to say you waited too long to file your suit. But my point is, every way along, every turn, the Democrats had a propaganda machine that they could use to create a perception that Trump didn't have any evidence, that he didn't have any proof, that not even the courts would listen to him. But if it ever broke a crack where some major news outlets would have said, "Hey, Trump won a court case and this is going to be investigated," then the American people would have woke up. And I'm not talking about MAGA supporters. I'm talking about people that didn't even vote. They would have started asking questions like, why aren't we investigating this? Okay. So we've got the two-pronged attack that we have to face. This is what needs to be done. You need to get all of your friends to start attending local county Republican Party meetings. And don't show up there at your first meeting and start ranting about, we're going to take this over and you guys let us down. Persuasion does not work when you yell at people and belittle them, and especially when you tell them what your goals are. You go to these meetings, and for a month or two, you just sit there quietly and you use reconnaissance. You figure out, okay, who are the people that seem to be talking the most? What are they like? Who are they sympathetic toward? Are they establishment types? Are they sympathetic to the president? And just listen. Be quiet. Tell them that you have an interest in being involved because you don't like what the Democrats did. That's all you have to say. Stay away from the QAnon crap, okay? I'm going to tell you that right now. I know this is going to offend a lot of people. Yeah, I hope and wish that in the next couple days the QAnon stuff ends up being true, and I hope I look like a total idiot for not believing it. Trust me, I wish that was the case. But this is one of the same things that hurt the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is not far from what we believe as conservatives. But they just couldn't help themselves by letting the party be defined by all the fringe elements that only talked about legalizing drugs. And that just destroyed the Libertarian Party. They could never get their message about freedom and liberty and the reduction of the size of government because people kept getting hung up on this non essential issue of making drugs legal. Okay? We have bigger fish to fry right now than whether or not QAnon is giving us accurate information. Okay? We need to look beyond that and say, look, even if QAnon's right, we still need to be prepared to try and take over the GOP and and take it back to the conservative roots that it was created for. Okay? Don't set the Republican Party back 15 years by continuing to just focus on fringe opinions about some unproven secret organization. Okay? And stop bashing other MAGA supporters for not agreeing with you, because now you're acting like leftists who are trying to create a purity test on whether or not you should be part of the party. We have to have a big tent to be able to win. We took in a lot of Democrats. We took in a lot of independents. Trump is a populist. He's not necessarily a conservative, But it's just like Ronald Reagan said, forget about, and I don't know his exact quote, but the point was, if you can agree with someone on 80%, feel blessed about that. Because as much as people disagree about things, if you can agree on 80%, take it. So just because I don't agree with you about Q, I agree with you on 80 to 90% of everything else. We've got to remember that. The Q crowd and the non Q crowd have to stick together. We've got to infiltrate the local Republican Party, county parties, and we have to start making calls. And this is the second part. We have to start making calls to congressional offices and media and just continue to pound them once a week. Seriously, once a week, pick a day and pick an hour to call the New York Times or CNBC or MSNBC or ABC or even ESPN, because they spew a bunch of Black Lives Matter, just to let them know that you are out there and you want them to stop pushing the leftist socialist crap. Okay? If we had 1 million people a week, just one time a week for an hour, that would call these media outlets and start holding their feet to the fire, and we did it week after week after week for months, we can start putting pressure on that propaganda machine, okay? Because as leftist as they are, they're not going to allow themselves to go out of business just over the narrative that they want to push. Because at the end of the day, they want to keep their jobs. CNN does not want to go bankrupt. So we can't have this defeatist attitude like it's pointless to call and challenge these media outlets, okay? Do it with your local papers too and your local TV stations. So look, here's the only solution we have. The election season for 2022 is going to start here in about 11 months, because people will start announcing their candidacy for state offices and for Congress probably this coming November and December, and they'll start running their elections. I mean, actually this summer they will, because they'll need to start campaigning in preparation of the primaries that are going to be anywhere from February to July of 2022 for the election. So you can't create a third party quick enough. You can't get enough people in a third party. You can't get all the signatures and all the paperwork and all the approvals you need to get third parties in a position to do anything in the 2022 election, because it's people are going to start announcing here in about 6 months. President Trump has promised that he's going to go after certain politicians that threw him under the bus. And the way he's going to do it is he's going to find candidates, just like Sarah Palin did. Sarah Palin essentially was the first one to endorse Trump. Sarah Palin went out, when she resigned, she became a kingmaker. And that's what Donald Trump is going to play now. But he's not going to do it with a third party. He's going to go to Georgia and he's going to find a MAGA supporter. Maybe it'll probably somebody from the Georgia State House that stood up and supported him, or the Georgia Senate, someone that stood up and supported him during the recounts, and Trump's going to convince one of these people to primary Kemp for the Republican nomination for governor of Georgia. And he's going to win. Kemp's going to lose. Kemp will lose in the primary if that's what Trump does. And you can say, oh, but still the Republican Party and blah, 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 blah. If you're in Georgia, would you not vote for a man who was pro-Trump just because he was in the Republican Party. Political party means nothing. The only thing that a political party is the combined desires of the members. It can change at any time. Our party could be taken over by a bunch of communists, and then the Republican Party would be communists. Okay? There's been times where the Republican Party in the early 90s was taken over by conservatives, and it was a very conservative party. But then over the next 20 years, it was taken over by the Bush types, and it's become a moderate, centrist, left-leaning party as far as the leaders. So the political party name doesn't matter. We need to take advantage of the infrastructure that's already been built for us. You wouldn't invade a country and then tear down all the roads and rebuild new roads the way you liked. You would take what's there and use it. So the two things we need to do is we need to start attending county Republican meetings, take them over. Don't be don't, don't be loud and boisterous the first couple meetings, okay? Because then you're gonna create a situation where people aren't gonna trust you, and they know their party, and they're gonna find a way to squeeze you out. You need to go and do reconnaissance, find out, who's the chair of the county party, who the other officers are, who are the people that are respected, who are the people that are establishment types, who are MAGA types, okay? And then after a couple months, then you can start making your moves and saying, hey, I'd like to step up and become a precinct captain. And you start trying to get hundreds and hundreds of local MAGA people into the party so that when critical votes come up, you can elect a MAGA person to be the chair of the county party. That's how it works. And then when the RNC funds come, the MAGA people get to spend it, and they get to nominate the candidates that they want to see in office to try and get rid of the establishment, the rhinos, okay? But as we saw with this latest election, um, just because you have a candidate you want, like we had with Trump, doesn't mean you're going to win if the other side is cheating and controlling the narrative. So you have to also start creating a plan. How are we going to be able to control the narrative and protect our candidate and not let lies stick to our candidate? We have to start pushing back against the media by calling them every week, calling them out. We got to work on our local media the same way. And you need to start supporting conservative media like the Daily Wire and, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Rush Limbaugh, uh, you know, even podcasts like Timcast, Tim Pool. He's not a stated conservative, but he voted for Trump, and he's been pushing back against a lot of the leftist attempts to basically take over our country. So those are the two things, people. Look, I studied political science in school, in college. I was political science with a focus on international relations. And then, like I told you, I served for a year in the Libertarian Party of Ohio, and I saw all the shortcomings of a third party and how hard it is to do anything inside a state because of the way that the Republicans and Democrats created the rules. All right. Take these things to heart. These are things that you can do now. You don't have to sit back and wait for someone to organize and get all the legal paperwork and filings for a third party. You can start doing these things today. Find out when the next county Republican Party meeting is. Monday morning, wake up and start calling. Take an hour out of every week and call CNN and complain. Call Fox and complain. Give money to OANN. Give money to Newsmax. Give money to Brightside uh, News. Give money to the Epic Times and NTD News. Okay? We've got to build our own megaphone to compete with the propaganda machine of the left. This is all I can offer. I'm just offering what I know. And these are things that we can start now. And it doesn't even necessarily take a coordinated effort if people just start doing these things now on their own. Organize within your own county and start for just 1 hour a week, make phone calls, but do it every week. Trust me, you will see a difference. Nothing happens overnight. It can't, okay? But I promise you this, no matter what Joe Biden and the Democrats do for the next 2 years, even if they find a way to cancel elections, there is no way that they can stop us if we take this path, because we will then control one of the two largest political parties in the country, and we will have the authority to do things just like the Democrats do. So we will be able to take back our country, but we've got to be dedicated to doing it, and we've got to stay away from these knee-jerk, rash decisions like, oh, we need to start a third party, or chasing after utopian, hopeful conspiracy theories, okay? That can't be part of the process. I wish all of you luck. I'm going to play my part, and hopefully maybe within a Facebook group, uh, we can share our experiences on the successes we're making infiltrating the local GOP offices, okay? I'll try to make another video soon, but in the meantime, heed what I say and try to make those things happen. Thanks.